Right, so hey guys, welcome back to our channel Code and NGs, and today we are going to discuss the video solutions of Codeforces Round 738 Div 2. And right now the problem into consideration is problem B, Mocha and red and blue, or maybe the pronunciation can go at Mocha and red and blue, depending upon what you want to call. So I hope you have read the problem before consulting the tutorial. So the problem is pretty much simple, that you have a string that will either have a B or an R or a question mark, and we can replace the question mark with either a character B or character R. And the basic requirement of the problem is that we have to minimize the number of consecutive characters that are same, right? So basically you have to minimize the cases where we'll have two R's together, or basically the cases where we'll have two B's together, right? So this is a very famous problem. If anybody of you has given hash code this year, the similar kind of a problem where you were given a string and the requirement was that you have to, I mean, not allow two specific characters to come together, and that kind of problem was to minimize. You can use DP for that. But in this kind of a problem where we have to basically return a particular string, it becomes like a little bit different than this problem, right? So how can we approach this problem? My way of looking at the problem is pretty much simple. Like, for if you have a string, maybe question mark, then we have a B, another question mark, R, question mark, and maybe another B, or so on, and here we have another continuation, right? What I want you to guys to understand is that for characters that are already present, right, which are not question marks, either B or R, we can't change them, right? So we should not look to minimize the entire case. What we have to deal with is, let us try to simplify the problem. Let us look at certain subsegments where we can look and algorithmically decide that either a question mark has to be replaced by a B or an R, right? So what I mean to say is, basically, let us consider this case. Right. So if we have a B, two question marks, and R, what I'm telling you to do is pretty much simple, that for all the question marks that come over here, just iterate through them and reach up to a point which is not a question mark. Right. And now what you can simply do is that check how many number of question marks you have in that interval. If you have an even number of question marks, right, that means before R, then the simplest thing to do is that replace the first question mark that appears on the left with the same character, which is R in this case, and then replace the subsequent characters with B and do the alternating case, right? R, B, and so on. If the number of question marks are odd, then you have to start with B, right? You have to start with the converse case, B, and then you have to go with the alternating different sequence. What I can see is that there will be one doubt between a lot of people, that we're just considering the next case and maybe not the first case, right? We should be taking both the things into consideration. Well, if you look at the longer term, there may be a case where if there was R over here, right, and if I'm picking to choose R over here, then these two consecutive elements are coming together, which are R, and basically my number of pairs, consecutive pairs which are same, will be incremented by 1, right? So how am I basically trying to minimize the problem? If you look at this particular condition, R, question mark, R, now you replace the question marks with either of the case. Maybe you can say that, okay, if I start with B, R, I'm still getting this case. If I say this case, which I am saying to be the answer, I'm getting an R together. Or if I say I put two B's together, that is also getting this case, right? So if there is a case that from the starting element, my particular answer is still giving an additional answer and it is not minimizing the total answer, you have to understand that it is a trade-off. If I do the opposite sequence, I will still concede 1. If I do this sequence, I'm still conceding 1. So practically, when I'm solving the problem and I have certain number of question marks, like, let me just clear the screen, go to a new page. If I have a certain number of question marks before reaching a new point, maybe this is the case for this, I just need to consider this B and the number of question marks before it. I don't have to look at the first character. Maybe the answer might concede +1 if I choose an answer over here. which may be same as this. But if I do the opposite sequence, it will still give me a +1 because the answer will be over here. So there's a trade-off. You can do either of the cases. The simplest way is look at the next character and the number of question marks, right? For all those people who require like a walkthrough to how the question should be done, so it's pretty simple. What we can do is that take the input, take the string, and make a map or anything where you can just store the converse, like the converse of B case will be R, converse of R case will be B. And let us just bring a string that will go through, and we are building the answer using this string answer, right? So we're just going through, and so this is the case where I'm saying that if you encounter question marks, just simply iterate it over, right? If you're just breaking through that case where we have iterated across the entire string and we still not found a character which was other than this question mark, then we have to break out of it. And this is what I need to say, right? So our previous answer stored, and if I do the difference between it, and if it comes out to be odd, right? Over here, if the modulo is giving me 1. So what I have to do is that I will start with the converse case of the first occurring non-question mark character, right? After the question marks. So maybe over here, if I was starting with B, and you realize maybe this case where the number of question marks may be odd. So what I have to do is that I have to start with that particular case where I'm starting with the converse of B, which will be R. So the starting sequence will be R. Just erase one question mark because we have even number. So R, B, R, and then this B, right? Simple. So what we are doing is just put an converse character at the starting, right? And just get the answer through. And at every point, change the considering character to its converse so that we can maintain the alternative sequence. For the opposite case, we have to do the opposite, and we have just completed the answer. Just to make sure, we have to handle one case where maybe what we are encountering through are all question marks, right? For that case, what you can do is you can either start with B or start with R and just create the alternate sequencing by changing M to be its converse. If it's B, change it to R. If it's R, change it to B. And we can simply walk through the answer, make our string answer, and just return it or make it on the output, right? If you guys have any doubts and you want to look at the code, right? So you can definitely look for my ID. It's video underscore tutorial, right? Just showing it here. And you can just like friend me over here, look at my solutions to get a better idea of this, right? So meet you to the solutions of C and D. Till then, bye bye, see ya, have a nice day, and have a great coding spree.